The silent power of disappearing, a Stoic's approach to relationships. Have you ever found yourself wondering what would happen if you simply disappeared from someone's life? Not a slow fading, not a passive withdrawal, but a complete and utter disappearance. You stop responding to messages, you stop showing up at the events, you vanish without any explanation, without any warning. You become invisible to them. What would happen if you just stepped out of someone's life as though you were never there in the first place? It might sound extreme, even cruel to consider such an act, but before you judge too quickly, let me ask, have you ever felt like you were being taken for granted? Have you ever been the one who gave and gave in a relationship, whether romantic, familial, or professional, only to be left feeling unseen, unappreciated, or dismissed? How many times have you found yourself reaching out to someone only to be met with indifference or neglect? In today's world, relationships have become transactional. We give a little, we expect a little, but when we're left without acknowledgement or reciprocation, the emotional cost can be overwhelming. Our society has a strange way of normalizing this imbalance, as if it's a given that we should always be available, always accommodating, always willing to sacrifice our own peace for others. But here's the truth that many don't realize. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your own peace of mind and emotional well-being is to disappear. This isn't about revenge or pettiness. It's not about punishment or drama. It's about taking control of your life and taking back what you've allowed to be stripped from you over time. Your self-respect, your worth, your emotional balance. Stoicism teaches us that the only thing we can control is our own reaction to the world around us. We cannot control how others behave, how they perceive us, or how they treat us. But we can choose how much of ourselves we give to them. In a world where people are constantly glued to their devices, where communication is instant, and where expectations are set higher than ever before, the idea of disappearing might sound strange or even alarming. But think about it. What would happen if you simply stopped responding to the text messages that leave you feeling drained? If you decided to stop showing up for people who never truly show up for you? What would happen if you removed yourself from the cycle of unreciprocated effort? This video isn't about offering a dramatic how-to guide on ghosting people. It's not a blueprint for avoiding accountability. Instead, it's a deep dive into understanding the emotional dynamics that unfold when you decide to take a step back, to disappear, to withdraw, not out of anger or spite, but out of a deep, profound respect for yourself and your own well-being. Imagine this: someone you've invested a lot of time and energy into, whether a friend, a partner, or a family member, suddenly no longer responds. They are left wondering why. They may feel confused, perhaps even hurt or betrayed, but there's no explanation coming from you. In that silence, you've shifted the power dynamic in the relationship. You've stopped making yourself available for emotional exploitation. You've chosen, for once, to put yourself first. But how do we navigate this? What happens to both you and the other person involved? Does this disappearance change the relationship for good? Or is it simply a temporary reaction to a deeper issue that needs to be addressed? This process of withdrawing and reclaiming one's emotional independence may be unsettling for some, but it's also an act of self-preservation. It's a recognition that we, as individuals, do not need to give everything of ourselves to others, especially when that giving is not met with equal care and respect. The Stoics would tell us that our emotional balance lies not in our ability to control the behavior of others, but in our ability to manage our own reactions and expectations. In fact, they would argue that this disappearing act is not only an act of personal power, but also an act of wisdom. In the next section, we will explore the emotional journey that both parties, you and the person who's left behind, undergo when such a disappearance occurs. We'll dive into how to handle the feelings of guilt, confusion, and uncertainty that might arise, and how Stoicism can help us navigate these challenges with calmness and clarity. This video is not just about what happens when you leave. It's about why leaving can sometimes be the best thing you can do, both for you and for the other person. Through the lens of Stoicism, we will explore the importance of understanding the true nature of our relationships, setting boundaries, and recognizing the moments when disappearing is the most empowering thing you can do. By the end of this video, you will have a deeper understanding of why disappearing isn't about avoidance or cowardice, but about asserting your boundaries and choosing peace over unnecessary emotional turmoil. We will also reflect on the life-changing lessons you can draw from such experiences, both as the one who disappears and as the one left behind. The importance of withdrawing, a deep dive into its meaning and impact. Withdrawing, a conscious choice, not an act of weakness. We live in a world where people constantly seek connection and communication. Relationships seem to be the standard of social existence, and we rarely stop to question whether we truly need these relationships or not. Withdrawing from a relationship is not an act of weakness, but rather a powerful and intentional decision. According to Stoicism, maintaining inner peace and not being swept away by the expectations or negative emotions of others is a form of strength. This doesn't mean we should withdraw from all relationships. However, there are times when you feel like your efforts are unreciprocated or your sacrifices are in vain. In such cases, withdrawing temporarily can be a way to protect yourself. This isn't about playing games or intending to hurt anyone. It's a strategy that allows you the time to reflect and restore yourself before engaging again. For example, if you are someone who is always there for your friends or family when they need help, but you never receive any appreciation or acknowledgement in return, this can be exhausting. The feeling that you're giving without receiving anything in return becomes a heavy burden on your psyche. In such situations, Stoicism advises that instead of continuing to participate in an imbalanced relationship, you give yourself permission to withdraw temporarily. This doesn't mean you give up on the relationship entirely, but rather allow yourself the space you need to think and rejuvenate. 2. The necessity of withdrawing. Respecting yourself. Stoicism constantly emphasizes the importance of protecting your peace and self-respect. In a relationship, if you're constantly waiting for attention but never getting what you need, then the relationship no longer serves as a positive resource for your life. Withdrawing may be a necessary choice to recharge and reduce stress. Imagine you are a close friend to someone, always present when they face difficulties. However, when you encounter a challenge in your life, this friend is nowhere to be found. You feel hurt and begin to realize that you are being exploited. In this situation, a temporary withdrawal is a powerful way to send the message that the relationship needs respect and balance, and that you cannot continue giving without receiving anything. By withdrawing, you create space for the other person to recognize your value in the relationship. Sometimes others need to face your absence in order to realize what they've been missing. When they see that you are no longer readily available to give unconditionally, they will have to reconsider their level of respect for you. This is when your withdrawal can lead to positive changes in the relationship. 3. Stoicism and dealing with the guilt of withdrawing. One of the biggest challenges when withdrawing from a relationship is the feeling of guilt. Many people will feel like they are the bad ones when they stop giving their time to someone. However, Stoicism teaches us that not every act of giving is valuable. If you are constantly giving without receiving anything in return, then the relationship may not be healthy for you anymore. Withdrawing is simply a way to protect your emotional well-being. In this case, understanding that you are not obligated to give endlessly without receiving anything is crucial. Guilt arises only when you feel responsible for continuing to give, even though it doesn't make you feel good. Stoicism helps us realize that we cannot control how others react, but we can control how we feel about ourselves. Don't let guilt cloud your judgment. Remember that protecting your emotions and setting boundaries doesn't mean you are abandoning others, but rather it's a way to protect your peace. For example, you may feel guilty when you decide to stop meeting a friend with whom you've always spent time. But if you truly feel drained and have no energy left for yourself, then temporarily ending the relationship is a way for you to take care of yourself and possibly allow the relationship to evolve in a healthier way in the future. Stoicism teaches that self-care is an essential part of living a happy and healthy life. 4. Balanced relationships. The key to sustaining harmony. When you decide to withdraw from a relationship, you are not doing so out of anger or to punish someone. The goal is to create space for self-reflection so that you can objectively assess the relationship. When you maintain your peace and clarity, it becomes easier to identify which relationships are healthy and which ones might be harmful to you. Stoicism does not encourage severing all ties when problems arise, but it understands that sometimes withdrawing is the only way for a relationship to be revived. Try imagining that you are close friends with someone, but you have given them too much of your time without receiving any acknowledgement. You begin to feel that the relationship has become unbalanced and no longer brings you joy. In this situation, withdrawing can create space for both sides to reassess what really matters in the relationship. When you return, you may find a new, stronger connection. Withdrawing is an act of power and self-respect. From the analysis above, we can see that withdrawing from a relationship is not an act of weakness, but rather a deliberate and powerful decision. It is a way to recharge, reassess values and expectations in relationships, and most importantly, to protect your peace and mental well-being. Stoicism teaches us that self-respect and the ability to set boundaries are key elements in maintaining a happy and healthy life. Withdrawing is not the end of a relationship, but an opportunity for it to evolve in a more positive direction. When you know how to choose relationships that are worthy of your time and when to withdraw, you create a life that is not only meaningful, but also filled with freedom and happiness. Withdrawing as a pathway to clarity, peace, and self-renewal. As we've explored in this discussion, withdrawing is often misunderstood as an act of cowardice or emotional avoidance. In contrast, the Stoic philosophy advocates that withdrawing, especially in the context of imbalanced or draining relationships, is not just a form of self-preservation, but a strategic move that opens the door to personal growth and emotional clarity. It is a profound reminder that we are in control of our emotional boundaries and that we need to protect our peace at all costs. 1. The necessity of self-awareness. One of the core lessons that Stoicism imparts is the importance of self-awareness and introspection. Life is not merely about interacting with the external world and other people, but about understanding oneself in the midst of these interactions. Withdrawing allows you to step back, detach from external pressures, and understand your own needs, desires, and emotional boundaries. The modern world often moves at such a fast pace that we forget to check in with ourselves. We may find ourselves emotionally drained, constantly responding to the demands of others, without ever pausing to reflect on how much of our energy is being depleted and whether we are fulfilling our own needs. By withdrawing, you give yourself the space to reconnect with your inner self, reestablish your own goals, and determine what truly matters. When you step away from the noise of everyday life, be it in friendships, family obligations, or professional engagements, you allow room for clarity to emerge. Withdrawing is not an act of neglect, but an intentional return to self-discovery. In this sense, Stoicism teaches us that understanding ourselves is the most valuable investment we can make, as it allows us to live authentically and act with purpose. 2. Withdrawing in balance, not avoidance, but renewal. It is important to clarify that withdrawing is not synonymous with avoidance. Many people mistakenly think that disappearing from a relationship or stepping back from a commitment means running away from challenges. However, this is not the Stoic perspective. Withdrawal, from a Stoic standpoint, is an act of balance. It is a temporary step away from a situation or relationship that may be draining your energy, so you can come back with a clearer mind, a stronger sense of self, and a more thoughtful approach. Consider the metaphor of a river. If you're constantly flowing downstream without any opportunity to pause, you might miss the beauty and lessons that the river has to offer. The act of stepping back is like a pause in the flow, giving the river a moment to reflect on its course, recalibrate its direction, and ultimately return stronger than before. Similarly, when we withdraw, we allow ourselves a moment of emotional and mental recalibration. During this time of withdrawal, we can engage in practices that help us regain our emotional strength, such as meditation, journaling, or physical exercise. These practices are not about running away from problems, but rather about finding the space to deal with them from a place of peace. By stepping away from the noise and distractions of our daily interactions, we make room for our deeper thoughts to emerge. The result is a more centered, clear-headed, and focused version of ourselves, one that can approach the challenges ahead with a renewed perspective. 3. Reassessing relationships, a space for growth and respect. A critical aspect of withdrawing is the ability to reassess relationships. Not all relationships are meant to last forever, and some may not be as valuable as we originally thought. In fact, some relationships may be toxic, draining, or even harmful to our well-being. It is essential, therefore, to periodically step back and evaluate the relationships we maintain. This process of self-reflection helps us determine which connections align with our values and which may be hindering our personal growth. By withdrawing from relationships that are no longer beneficial, we create an opportunity for them to either evolve or dissolve. In many cases, the person on the other side may realize that they have taken your presence for granted or have not been contributing as much to the relationship as they should. This realization can lead to positive changes, as both parties have the chance to reflect on their actions, behaviors, and attitudes. It is important to note that Stoicism does not advocate for cutting off relationships on a whim or without consideration. The goal is not to become cold or indifferent, but to find a balance where your emotional needs are respected and the relationships you engage in are mutually beneficial. In cases where a relationship is unhealthy or damaging, withdrawal can serve as a wake-up call to the other person, helping them understand that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. In this way, withdrawal becomes an opportunity for both growth and transformation. 4. The liberation of boundaries. Freeing yourself from unhealthy expectations. One of the most profound aspects of withdrawing is the liberation it offers from unhealthy expectations. In many cases, we find ourselves in situations where we are expected to be constantly available, supportive, and self-sacrificing for others, often at the expense of our own well-being. This kind of unhealthy dynamic can create a sense of resentment, emotional exhaustion, and even bitterness. By withdrawing from these expectations, we regain control over our time, energy, and emotional state. For example, in a friendship where you always feel like the one giving, but never receiving anything in return, it's easy to feel unappreciated or taken advantage of. This ongoing cycle of giving without receiving can eventually erode your self-esteem and create feelings of resentment. By temporarily withdrawing from the relationship, you stop the cycle of giving and start to rebuild your sense of self-worth. This space allows the other person to reflect on the relationship as well and understand the value of reciprocal support. Setting healthy boundaries is one of the most important lessons that Stoicism teaches us. By recognizing when we are overextending ourselves and making the conscious decision to withdraw, we are establishing a boundary that respects both our emotional needs and our personal space. This in turn fosters more meaningful and sustainable relationships in the future. 5. Withdrawing as a form of empowerment. The strength to say no. At its core, the Stoic philosophy teaches us that true empowerment comes from the ability to make choices that align with our values, goals, and well-being. Withdrawing is an act of empowerment because it requires the courage to say no to what does not serve us. Whether it's withdrawing from a toxic relationship, stepping away from an unfulfilling job, or disengaging from a social obligation that drains your energy, the power of withdrawal lies in our ability to assert our right to prioritize ourselves. In today's fast-paced, interconnected world, we are often bombarded with demands from all sides. We feel obligated to say yes to everything and everyone, but this constant need to please others can lead to burnout and frustration. Stoicism teaches us that we have the right to say no and to make decisions that protect our inner peace. By embracing the power of withdrawal, we take back control over our emotional and mental states, allowing us to live in alignment with our true values. 6. Moving forward. From withdrawal to reconnection. The final lesson of Stoic withdrawal is that it is not a permanent state of isolation, but a temporary phase that allows us to return to our relationships with greater clarity and purpose. Once we have taken the time to reflect, heal, and reset, we can re-enter the relationships we care about with renewed energy and a deeper sense of understanding. The space we create through withdrawal becomes the foundation for healthier, more balanced interactions. In conclusion, Stoicism encourages us to embrace the power of withdrawal as a means of self-care, self-respect, and emotional clarity. It is not an act of retreat, but one of renewal. By stepping back, we give ourselves the opportunity to reconnect with our true selves, reassess the relationships in our lives, and ultimately lead lives that are in harmony with our inner values. Through this process, we learn that true strength lies not in constant giving, but in knowing when to step back and reclaim our emotional sovereignty. Our lives can be difficult and full of challenges, but thanks to the lessons of Stoicism, we can find peace within ourselves, even in the toughest moments. It all starts with understanding that we cannot control everything, but we can control how we react to it. This is true freedom. So are you ready to begin your journey with Stoicism? Try applying these simple yet powerful principles to your life and see the positive changes they bring. If you found this video helpful and inspiring, don't forget to like, share it with your friends and family so we can spread this philosophy of life together. These simple actions not only help grow my channel, but also allow more people to discover the power of Stoicism in creating a better life. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of the upcoming videos on Stoicism and other deep life lessons I share. I will continue to bring you high-quality content to help you become the best version of yourself every day. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about your experiences applying Stoicism in your life. Share your story and let's learn from each other. Remember, the journey toward inner peace and strength is not a race. It's a continuous process. Together, we will keep searching for deeper life values with every video. Thank you for watching this video. I wish you a wonderful day and don't forget to come back for the upcoming videos on the Inner Stoic channel. See you in the next video.